Donkey Kong's redesign has sparked a fair bit of discussion over the past 2 months. In a general sense, his new design is honestly pretty similar to his old one, but in a few key ways, it's quite different. Ever since the reveal of this new 3D model, the big question has been, which look is better for DK? But there's something a little deeper going on here, and it's a facet of character design at which Nintendo excels. I think the question we should be asking is this: what should it feel like to play as Donkey Kong? You see, while Nintendo is obviously excellent at the visual design of their characters, they're even better at designing the unique feel of each character's gameplay. And I don't just mean controls and mechanics, though that is a big part of it. I'm talking about the emotions each character evokes in the player. We are going to take a look at Nintendo's 5 most well-known characters and which emotion they most strongly elicit through their gameplay. We'll be looking at Link, Samus, Kirby, Mario, and finally, Donkey Kong himself. I think that after we take a look at each of these 5 characters, we'll discover why Nintendo wants to give Donkey Kong this fairly drastic redesign. You ready? Let's get into Parrot Mode. When you sit down to play a video game starring any of these 5 characters, you step into their shoes. You become them. You begin to root for them, empathize with them, and especially as you get further into the game, you begin to feel almost as if they become a part of you. You begin to feel their emotions, understand the way they view the world, agree with their actions, etc. It's honestly similar to what happens to us when we watch movies. We grow attached to protagonists and their emotional ups and downs. In a video game, this also occurs, but often for different reasons. Even if video game storytelling isn't usually as strong as a good movie, especially in Nintendo games, the effect can still be profound. This is because of the agency you have while controlling these characters, the gameplay. Their actions and their choices are also yours. You share that bond with them in a way you just can't while watching a movie. And more importantly, as these characters star in more and more games over the years and you spend more and more time with them throughout your life, you begin to expect something from them. Before you even sit down to play a game starring Mario, you know what you're going to feel, and you look forward to having that familiar feeling. It's about fulfilling expectations, even if each game also adds something new at the same time. So if the emotions we feel while playing video games are conveyed through the gameplay, how do we define the emotions that each character gives us? What do we feel when we play as Samus? What about Kirby? What about Donkey Kong? I've given it quite a lot of thought over the past couple months, and I have come up with a single word for each of these 5 characters that best describes the emotion we feel while playing their games. And just to get this out of the way, yes, of course I know that we feel many emotions while playing each character, not just one per character. And I know that across all 5 characters, many of them evoke the same emotions. For example, we could say that Link makes us feel heroic, but so does Mario. For that matter, so does Samus. We could say that Mario makes us feel happy, but so does Kirby. The point is, I wanted to distill it down to one single emotion that best describes what it feels like to step into the shoes of each of these characters. Are you with me? Okay, let's look at the overview and then we'll briefly dive into each character. So first we've got Link. Link makes you feel courageous. Samus makes you feel competent. Kirby makes you feel blissful. Mario makes you feel tenacious. And finally, Donkey Kong makes you feel... Actually, we'll get to him in just a little bit. Now, before you finish typing that comment telling me I am way off and there are much better words I could have chosen, let me explain. First up, the hero of time himself, Link. When we play a video game as Link, we feel courageous. And no, I didn't just pick that because of the Triforce of Courage. It turns out Nintendo has actually leaned into this idea that Link is courageous quite well, and really baked it into the storyline and the gameplay. I'm sure you've heard it said that courage is not the absence of fear, but rather the ability to face that fear head on. Link embodies this perfectly. He's the underdog, the runt, the useless little boy that nobody expects greatness from. At the beginning of every single Zelda game, he is literally sleeping in. The very first thing we learn about Link in Ocarina of Time is that he is lazy. Nintendo works hard to make sure we know this guy is basically a loser. And yet, the fate of the world rests on him. If he is to fulfill his role, he must find courage. That is an idea that many of us connect with very strongly. At some point, we have each felt how impossible and overwhelming life can be. So it feels good to pick up a controller, step into the shoes of an incompetent fairy boy, and save the world against all odds. Across all its timelines and gameplay changes and art styles, this core idea of finding the courage to do the impossible is something Zelda games nail every time. Next, let's talk about a Nintendo character that seems similar to Link at first glance, but whose gameplay conveys a very different emotion. Samus, legendary bounty hunter. Over the years, I've described Metroid games as Zelda in space. And while yes, that is a bit of an oversimplification, it's fairly accurate. You play as a hero who starts with nothing and explores a vast world, fighting enemies and solving puzzles while gaining power-ups and becoming gradually stronger until eventually facing a powerful final boss. So then, the emotion you feel while playing as Samus is also courage, right? No, this is the key difference between Zelda games and Metroid games. What Samus makes us feel is competent. Samus has no need for courage because, best I can tell, the idea that she might not succeed has never even crossed her mind. Samus is the person you send in to do the job when every other option has failed. She's like the Master Chief or the Doom guy. No one questions that she can do the job and do it well. Samus lets us feel what it's like to be that person who walks into a room and everyone sighs in relief and mutters, "Oh, thank goodness she's here." It's about feeling competent, and if you want proof of this, look no further than Metroid Dread. Many longtime Metroid fans, including myself, walked away from that game saying, "That is the Samus I know and love." And the main reason is that she spends the entire game crushing powerful enemies with absolute nonchalance. Even with all her powers stripped away, Samus is utterly confident because she knows she is competent. As a player, it feels satisfying to share that emotion with her as you play her games. Next up, the little pink ball of happiness and destruction himself, Kirby. What is one thing Kirby games never do? They never stress you out. If any video game can be the opposite of a Souls-like, it's a Kirby game. Stepping into the shoes of Kirby is always a blissful experience. From what I can tell, most people argue that Kirby games are more squarely aimed at young children than most Nintendo games. And while that's probably true, I also think they do a good job of providing a gaming experience that's just purely relaxing for any age. You don't have to overthink anything. You don't have to break your brain solving a puzzle. You don't have to grind or practice a move over and over. And yet, the games still offer exciting gameplay, compelling stories, and engaging level design. It's just a feel-good, easygoing experience that also isn't cheap or brainless. Kirby games always throw way too much help your way, and I think that allows them to focus on being really good at providing that feeling of bliss. Alright, last one before we talk about DK. It's none other than Nintendo's mascot and the first video game character I ever grew attached to, Mario. I struggled the longest here to find the one unique emotion you feel when playing Mario games. I almost chose joyful for the emotion you feel, but upon further reflection, I landed on this word instead: tenacious. And while that might seem odd at first, think about it. Mario games are all about trying that one level over and over and over until you finally beat it. They're about burning through dozens of extra lives and being ready to give up, then finally nailing that level and feeling the satisfaction of having stuck with it. Mario games are about being tenacious. And again, if you need proof of this, look no further than the Super Mario Bros. Movie. I believe one of the goals of that movie was to distill Mario down to his essence. And the one thing we see over and over is that Mario is a guy who does not give up. I think the scene where he runs through Peach's gauntlet embodies it the best. He stays up all night and just takes a beating from the same level again and again. And if you grew up playing Mario games like I did, then you have definitely been there. Mario games are so amazing at letting us feel the triumph of sticking with it and finding victory when it felt like there was no way to win. Mario games make us feel the reward of being tenacious. Each of these 4 characters have had multiple games, and they have been remarkably consistent, with a few exceptions, at delivering the same feeling. We revisit the old games and look forward to the new ones because we love feeling the courage of Link, the competence of Samus, the blissfulness of Kirby, and the tenacity of Mario. So, what about Donkey Kong? If we focus on his mainline games from the Rare era, and I'll include his 2 incredible Retro Studios games as well, what emotion do we feel most strongly through his gameplay? As we're bowling over Kremlings and swinging on vines and shooting out of barrels and timing those minecart jumps perfectly, what do we feel? I would argue that we feel tenacious. Again, see, this has been one of DK's biggest issues ever since the first Donkey Kong Country game. In a way, he's kind of just another Mario. Now, of course, the DK Country games very much have their own unique identity and feel, and they are plenty distinct enough to stand tall next to Mario games as excellent gaming experiences. In fact, I would argue that Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze is better than any modern 2D Mario game, period. But the point is, Donkey Kong is filling the same role that Mario fills. I mean, look at DK64, my personal favorite N64 game of all time, by the way. It is just Mario 64 again, but bigger and better. Well, better depending on your opinion. DK games, at the end of the day, are also about tenacity. While that's not necessarily a bad thing, and the DK games are certainly not bad, I don't think that's the feeling that I want to get while playing as Donkey Kong. Alright, so what emotion should we expect to feel while playing as Donkey Kong? Well, I mean, just look at him. He's a huge, muscular gorilla with Kong in his name. So when we control him, we should feel strong, right? DK should be throwing punches and sending enemies flying, but instead... I want to be clear here, I'm not trying to knock classic games. I think these games are great. I just think they don't convey that Donkey Kong is a strong, powerful character. I mean, he can pick up barrels and throw them, but other than that, he doesn't seem particularly strong. Okay, so maybe he'll feel stronger in the next generation game, DK64. Let's see if we can throw a big, powerful punch here and... Well, okay. I mean, hey, at least there isn't another protagonist who uses his strength to overshadow Donkey Kong. Alright, fine. Let's fast forward to the Retro Studios games. They've had some time to really reflect on the character, so I'm sure they'll make DK feel... Okay, I'll stop. You get the point. All I'm trying to say is, I feel like DK is this big hulking gorilla, and we don't really get to see him use his strength. The thing he's really good at is just also jumping around like Mario. That is, until now.
Let's take a look at some of the things this Kong can do. Punch!
This, my friends, is why I believe DK looks and plays the way he does in DK Bonanza. It's not just about updating his look. It's not just about making him more expressive or more aligned with his original incarnation. It's about making you feel powerful when you pick up a controller and play a game as Donkey Kong. DK Bonanza still maintains the basic structure of exploring worlds and collecting golden shiny objects, but the execution is completely different. You can literally use your fists to break apart everything around you. To me, this screams that Nintendo wants us to feel strong when we play as DK. And I think that's awesome because I think that's always what this character has needed, what he's deserved. Donkey Kong was amazing in his previous games, and I will always love those games. But I think it's high time he became his own character with his own unique feel. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, I don't think Nintendo could have done a better job. This looks like what Donkey Kong should always have been, and I cannot wait to pick up a Nintendo Switch 2 controller and finally feel the full strength of Donkey Kong for myself.